I used to avoid mirrors and bright light. Every angle just seemed to age me another year. Then a stylist friend told me something that changed how I think about hair completely. It's not your face that's aging you. It's usually the cut. Today I'm walking you through 5 haircuts that genuinely take years off a woman's face after 50. Not trendy, not high maintenance, just quietly powerful choices that work with what you already have. I researched the best haircuts and styling secrets for women over 50 so you get real answers, not guesswork. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. I cover this every single week. Part 1. The soft layered bob that lifts everything. Here's something most women never hear from their stylist. A blunt one-length cut is one of the heaviest things you can put around an aging face, and heavy pulls everything down, literally. Gravity is already working against your jawline. A blunt cut just hands it more rope. The second you see a woman your age with soft, rounded layers instead, something clicks. That's what's been missing. You've probably felt this without naming it. You look in the mirror after a fresh cut and it's fine, it's neat, but it's not doing anything for you. That flat, heavy line along the jaw isn't flattering you. It's outlining exactly where things have softened, instead of drawing the eye up and away from it. The fix is a soft, rounded layered bob. Layers that start around cheekbone height and build gently toward the crown, with the ends barely grazing the jaw instead of slicing straight across it. Ask for face-framing layers with rounded, feathered ends, no blunt line at the bottom. That phrase matters. Stylists hear bob, and often default to blunt because it's easier to cut and easier to maintain. You have to specifically ask them to avoid that hard edge. Here's why it works on a mechanical level, not just a stylistic one. Rounded layers create movement at the exact points where skin has lost some of its natural lift, around the jaw and lower cheek. Instead of a straight line drawing attention to that area, the eye follows the curve of the layers upward, toward your cheekbones and eyes. It's the same principle a good tailor uses with fabric. Soft curves suggest lift, straight lines suggest weight. The crown height matters just as much as the ends. Ask your stylist to build a little volume at the root through the crown, using layers cut on a slight diagonal rather than straight horizontal. This does something subtle but powerful. It elongates the face very slightly, which counteracts the natural widening that can happen along the jaw and lower cheek as we age. You're not changing your face shape. You're just giving the eye a different path to travel. I think about my friend Rosalind here. She'd worn the same chin-length blunt bob for almost 15 years, the kind she got because it was easy, because it required no thought on a Sunday morning. When she finally let her stylist round out the ends and lift the crown, she called me that same afternoon, practically laughing. She said the strangest thing had happened at the pharmacy. The young cashier called her ma'am, and then, catching herself, said, "Sorry, miss." Rosalind said nobody had corrected themselves like that in years. It wasn't the haircut performing magic. It was the haircut finally working with her face instead of against it. The snapback moment here is worth sitting with. This one change doesn't just soften your jawline. It changes how people read your energy before you've said a single word. A rounded, lifted silhouette reads as approachable and alive. A heavy blunt line, even on a beautiful cut, can accidentally read as tired. Not because you are tired, but because the shape itself doesn't move. Before, a blunt, one-length bob sitting heavy along the jaw, drawing every line downward. After, soft, rounded, feathered layers lifting at the crown and skimming the jaw instead of framing it in a hard line. Same woman, same features, completely different first impression. But there's a second cut on this list that does something even more surprising for a very specific hair type. And if your hair has gotten finer over the years, you're going to want to hear this one next. Part 2. The face framing layers built for thinning hair. Here's the part nobody tells you about hair loss and thinning after 50. The problem isn't usually how much hair you have left. It's what your cut is doing with it. Two women can have the exact same hair density, and one looks lush and full while the other looks thin and flat, purely because of how the length and layers are distributed. If your hair has gotten finer, you already know the frustration. You wash it, it looks fine wet, and by noon it's lying flat against your scalp with no shape at all. Most women respond by cutting it shorter, thinking less length means less weight pulling it down. It's a reasonable guess. It's also usually backwards. The fix is face framing layers cut specifically around the front. shorter pieces starting at chin length that graze the cheekbones, while the back stays slightly longer to preserve overall density. Say this exact phrase to your stylist. Long face framing layers at the front, minimal layering in the back to keep density. That distinction matters enormously. A stylist who layers evenly throughout is thinning out hair that's already thin. You want the thinning concentrated only where it creates shape, not where it costs you volume. The mechanism here comes down to how light bounces off hair versus how it gets absorbed. Flat, thinning hair absorbs light. It looks dull because there's no texture to catch and reflect it. Face framing layers create small breaks in the length, and those breaks catch light at different angles, which visually reads as fullness even when the actual strand count hasn't changed. It's an optical trick, but it's one hairdressers have used for decades because it genuinely works. There's a second piece to this that most women skip: root lifting during the blowout. Ask your stylist to show you how to angle the dryer at the roots while lifting sections with your fingers, not brushing straight down, which flattens everything you just built. A round brush lifted away from the scalp, held at the root for a few seconds before moving down the length, builds a base of volume that the face framing layers then sit on top of. I think about Colette, who spent years convinced her thinning hair meant she'd simply run out of styling options. She'd resigned herself to pulling it back in the same low bun every single day. Not because she loved it, but because she'd stopped believing anything else would hold shape. When she finally tried the face framing approach with root lift, she told me she stood in front of the mirror for a full minute just turning her head side to side, watching the pieces move. She said it was the first time in years her hair had actually looked like it was doing something, instead of just sitting there. That's the real result here. Not more hair, but hair that reads as alive instead of resigned. People register movement and shape as youthfulness before they register anything else about a face. A flat, static style, even a neat one, can quietly signal giving up, while movement, even from the same amount of hair, signals the opposite. Before, hair thinning and lying flat against the scalp with no visible shape by midday. After, face framing layers with lifted roots, catching light and holding movement through the afternoon. Two completely different stories from the same amount of hair. Now here's a confession. For years I believed the pixie cut was only for women with a certain bone structure. I was completely wrong, and the next cut on this list is going to explain exactly why. Part 3. The modern pixie that actually softens your face. Let's clear something up first, because it stops so many women from even considering this cut. A pixie does not require sharp cheekbones or a particular jawline. That idea came from decades of seeing the same severe, close-cropped pixie on magazine covers. The kind cut tight to the scalp with hard geometric edges. That specific style does need strong bone structure. A modern, softened pixie is a completely different haircut, and it flatters far more faces than people realize. If you've dismissed the pixie for yourself, you're not alone. Most women do, right up until they see it done properly. The hesitation usually isn't really about the cut. It's the fear of losing something that's felt safe for a long time, even if that safe length hasn't been doing you any favors. The fix is a textured, longer pixie, length left through the top and a soft, wispy fringe, with the sides kept a bit longer than a traditional pixie and blended rather than buzzed. Tell your stylist. Textured pixie with length on top, soft wispy fringe, sides blended not shaved close. That phrasing keeps you out of the severe territory, and squarely in the flattering one. The mechanism is about proportion, not boldness. Short hair pulls the eye upward and outward, away from the lower face, which is exactly where most visible aging shows up first, around the jaw and neck. A softened pixie with movement on top does this without looking severe, because the wispy texture keeps everything soft rather than sharp. It's the difference between a cut that says "look at my face" and one that says "look at me, all of me, confidently." The fringe placement is where most of the softening actually happens. A side-swept, textured fringe that falls just above or through the brow does something a straight-across fringe never can. It breaks up the forehead into shorter visual segments, which reads as more relaxed and less severe. Ask specifically for the fringe to be cut dry, not wet, so your stylist can see exactly how it falls and adjust the pieces individually rather than cutting one straight line that dries into something entirely different than intended. Diane held onto shoulder-length hair for almost 20 years because she genuinely believed cutting it short would age her. When she finally tried the textured pixie, reluctantly, after months of her stylist gently suggesting it, she said the first thing she noticed wasn't even her face. It was her neck. She said she'd forgotten she had a neck, an actual visible neck and jawline, after 2 decades of hair covering it. Her daughter saw her 3 days later and didn't recognize her for a full second at the front door. That's the snapback here, and it's a real one. A softened pixie doesn't just change your hairstyle. It reveals features that longer hair has been quietly hiding for years. Your jawline, your neck, the actual shape of your face. Women are often surprised to learn those features were fine all along. They just hadn't been visible. Before, long, heavy hair covering the neck and jawline, hiding shape rather than flattering it. After, a textured, softened pixie with a wispy side fringe, revealing the jawline and neck with confidence instead of concealment. There's one more cut on this list that stylists genuinely call a secret. Not because it's hidden, but because so few women ever ask for it by name. Part 4. The shag that stylists rarely suggest first. Here's a fact that might surprise you. The shag haircut, the one most people associate with the 70s, is quietly one of the most requested insider cuts among stylists who specialize in mature clients. And it's almost never the first thing offered on a walk-in appointment. Stylists tend to default to safer, more predictable cuts unless you specifically ask for something with more texture and movement. If you felt like your current cut is fine, but never exciting, never something you look forward to styling, that flatness is often the real complaint hiding underneath. It's not that the cut is wrong. It's that it isn't doing anything. The fix is a modern layered shag, heavy texturizing throughout, shorter layers around the crown blending into longer pieces at the ends, with a soft curtain fringe that splits naturally at the center. Ask for exactly this. Modern shag with heavy texturizing and a soft curtain fringe, not a blunt bang. The word texturizing is doing the real work in that sentence. It tells your stylist you want movement cut into the hair itself, not just styled in afterward. The mechanism behind the shag's effectiveness is texture density. The sheer number of individual layer lines cut into the hair creates constant micro-movement, even when you're standing still, where a smooth, uniform cut can look static and, frankly, a little formal. Heavy texturizing catches light unevenly on purpose, which reads as effortless and current rather than deliberately styled. It's the haircut equivalent of a well-worn, well-loved piece of clothing versus something stiff and new. The curtain fringe is the other half of what makes this work. Unlike a blunt, straight-across bang, a curtain fringe splits naturally down the center and sweeps toward the temples, softening the entire upper face without ever looking like a deliberate bang at all. Ask your stylist to point cut the ends of the fringe rather than blunt cutting them. Point cutting creates soft, feathered tips instead of a hard line, which is what allows the fringe to blend seamlessly into the rest of the shag. Marguerite came to this one almost by accident. She'd brought in a photo of a much younger celebrity's shag, half joking, not really expecting her stylist to take it seriously. Her stylist adapted it immediately for her hair texture and her age. And Marguerite told me afterward that the strangest part wasn't how it looked, it was how little effort it took to maintain. She said she'd spent years assuming younger looking automatically meant more work. And this was the first cut that proved that assumption wrong. She could towel dry it, scrunch a little product through, and walk out the door. That's the real payoff of this cut, and it's worth naming directly. The shag doesn't just look current, it removes the daily styling burden that makes so many women retreat to safe haircuts in the first place. Low effort and high impact, together, is rare in hairstyling, and it's exactly why this one earns its place on this list. Before, a smooth, uniform cut with a blunt straight-across bang, static and stiff no matter how it's styled. After, a heavily texturized shag with a soft curtain fringe, full of natural movement and requiring almost no daily effort. And now the final cut on this list, the one I genuinely saved for last because it works on nearly every hair type, and almost nobody asks for it correctly. Part 5. The long layers that quietly do the most work. Here's something worth sitting with. You don't actually have to cut your hair short to look younger. That's the assumption most women make first, and it sends a lot of women into cuts they didn't really want, out of fear rather than preference. Long layers, cut correctly, can do just as much work as any shorter style. And for women who genuinely love their length, this is the cut that lets you keep it without sacrificing the lift. If you've kept your hair long out of love for it, but privately worried it was aging you, that tension is exactly what this fix resolves. The problem was never the length. It was almost always the lack of layering within it. The fix is long, face-framing layers cut throughout, not just at the ends, but starting mid-shaft and building toward the face, removing weight from the bottom while adding shape around the front. Say this to your stylist. Long layers starting mid-shaft, remove weight from the ends, add face-framing pieces at the front. That instruction prevents the most common mistake, which is a stylist simply trimming the ends and calling it layered, when nothing has actually changed about the shape. The mechanism here is weight distribution. Uncut, unlayered long hair carries all its weight at the very bottom, which pulls the whole style downward and flattens everything above it, including the roots. Layering starting mid-shaft redistributes that weight upward and outward, which is what allows the hair to actually move instead of hanging like a single heavy sheet. This is the same principle from part 1's bob, just applied to a completely different length. Weight is the enemy, movement is the goal, no matter how long or short you go. The face framing pieces at the front are what tie the whole look together. These are shorter layers, usually starting around collarbone length, that curve gently inward toward the cheeks and chin. They do exactly what the pixie's fringe did in part 3, soften the transition between hair and face, but without sacrificing any of the length behind them. You get the best of both approaches in a single cut. I think about a woman I met at a styling event years ago, who told me she'd worn the exact same one-length long hair since her 30s, convinced that changing it would mean giving in to getting older. When she finally added long layers in her early 60s, she said the compliment that stuck with her wasn't about her hair at all. Someone told her she looked lighter, and she said that was exactly right, in every sense of the word. Not just visually. She felt less weighed down too. That's the snapback worth ending on. This fix proves you were never actually choosing between long hair and youthful hair. That was always a false choice. The real choice is between hair that carries its own weight and hair that's been cut to let that weight go. And that decision has nothing to do with length at all. Before, long one-length hair carrying all its weight at the bottom, flat and heavy from root to end. After, long layers starting mid-shaft with face-framing pieces at the front, light, lifted, and full of movement despite keeping the same length. So there you have it. 5 haircuts, and not one of them requires you to sacrifice who you are to look and feel lighter, younger, and more like yourself. From the rounded bob that lifts a heavy jawline, to the shag that finally proved effort and youth aren't the same thing. Every fix here comes down to one idea. Work with your hair's weight, not against it. You now know exactly what to say in that stylist chair, word for word. Which of these 5 surprised you the most? Was it the pixie revealing your neck? Or the long layers proving you never had to cut it short at all? Tell me in the comments, I read every one. Next week I'm covering the exact color mistakes that make these same cuts look older than they should, so you'll want to see that one too. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.